All right, all right. Hi, everybody. I'm Sivonnia DeBarros, the protector of athletes, and it is my pleasure to present you with the very first NIL Combine Speaker Series. This is super exciting because now I get the opportunity to interview someone who has made major impact in the sports and business industry. And so, without further ado, I want to tell you a little bit about the person who is joining me on my screen. Whether you're watching this now or later, I want you to join in and drop your questions or your comments so that we can definitely interact with you and answer any questions that you may have for our speaker. But hold on, wait. Before we go in, I have to tell you guys the NIL Combine is coming. And if you don't have your ticket, I'm going to need you to get in the room. Listen, impact only happens when you put yourself in a position to be impacted. Okay. So get in the room, go to bit.ly/NIL Combine 2023 bit.ly/NIL Combine 2023. Again, that's bit.ly/NIL Combine 2023. Don't wait because the price will go up. There will be 2 additional price increases. This is your opportunity right now to snag your ticket for the athlete, the mom, the dad, whomever is the advocate in your life for NIL Combine, the official second annual event. Okay? Go to bit.ly/NIL Combine 2023 to get your ticket today. So, Christopher, thank you so much for joining me. You are my very first speaker of this new series. Thank you for being here. All right. Now, if you guys are not familiar with Christopher, I'm going to give you a little bit of his backstory, okay? He is a native and graduate of UNC Charlotte, and he received an Excellence in Leadership Award from the Black Alumni Chapter and was selected as a Distinguished Young Alumnus by Belk College of Business. He was recently featured in Forbes Magazine, whoop whoop, and named as Top 40 Under 40 by the Charlotte Business Journal. He is a former Division I collegiate track and field athlete, just like your girl, okay? And career financial services and risk management professional turned full-time entrepreneur and co-owner of the award-winning Charlotte-based lifestyle brand 704 Shop. If you guys have not heard of this business, make sure you go and Google this right now. It will come up with the website. Right, through partnerships with several large scales for profit and nonprofit and government entities, including the PGA and MLS, 704 Shop continues to elevate and redefine what it means to support local. Chris also has other ventures in the real estate investment, live entertainment industries, and he serves as a member of several prominent nonprofit brands, including the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance's Executive Committee, the UNC Charlotte Foundation Board of Directors, and serves as chairman of the board for the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance Foundation. Having started 2 needs-based scholarships at UNC Charlotte, Chris definitely is passionate about philanthropy and economic mobility. Who doesn't love that? An amazing background. Thank you for being here. So make sure you take your computer off of mute so we can hear you. Oh, well, maybe something's happening with your settings. Give us one moment, guys, while he fixes the settings.
To go?
Perfect. Now we can hear
There
you,
we go.
Christopher, which is weird because I
There
could
we
hear you
go.
when you first came in. All
Right. Yeah.
right.
I switched things around and then got all messed up. Thank you for reading all that such a long bio. You
It's
are
amazing,
an
though.
angel for doing that. I appreciate that.
It's amazing. So, my first question for you is what brought you or what made you say yes to becoming a speaker of NIL Combine?
Yeah. So we as a brand, we've been kind of interested in NIL for obviously following it before it became official. Um, and then once it did become official, it was still kind of like, a little bit of trepidation in terms of sticking your toe in the water because, not really having the right infrastructure, not really knowing what's what. Recently, Shopify, which is the main platform that we're on in terms of our e-commerce, um, made some enhancements to their platform that made it easier for us to engage even with brand ambassadors, which we had never really done before, as well. And so once I felt like we had a better infrastructure in place to support working with brand ambassadors, I thought it was a perfect opportunity for us to leverage the brand ambassador opportunities for student athletes. And so that's kind of like what we've been doing so far. We're a couple months in terms of navigating the space, but we're having a lot of fun with it and kind of seeing where it goes. So I was excited about the opportunity to be a part of, I guess, what you've built. Obviously, just to kind of learn more myself as a brand owner, but then also share, I think, a little bit of our experience, even though we're newer in this space, from the brand perspective.
Good stuff. Now, part of your bio that I love the most is that you also competed in track and field.
Yes.
I ran track and field for USF. Also met some amazing individuals there. But my question around that, having that identity, part of your identity being a former student athlete, if name, image, and likeness existed back when we went to college,
Yeah.
what do you think you would have been in a better position, or do you think you just would have gotten there faster?
That's a great question. I think, first and foremost, I think, obviously NIL represents an opportunity. It represents, when applied correctly, a financial opportunity that did not exist for student athletes when we were in school. So 9 times out of 10, student athletes are coming from challenged backgrounds. They're financial aid. They're on needs-based scholarships. Um, some of them have full rides and have athletic scholarships, but many of them do not. Either they're not on scholarship, like I was a walk on. I made the track team at UNC Chapel Hill just as a walk on. I tried out for the team. Wasn't recruited by that program, but tried out as a walk on and made the team. So I did not have I didn't have the financial assistance being on the team that many of my peers had. So NIL would have represented, because I'm clearly, as you can see, I'm into marketing. I'm into kind of figuring out a way to publicize my personal brand, and by extension, this brand that we've built. I think I would have figured out a way to, try to figure out some financial incentive and a financial pathway through NIL, for myself, even though I was not, a scholarship athlete, but I certainly represented the team, right? So UNC Chapel Hill, it's a big brand. And so, there could have been opportunities, within the city of Chapel Hill or surrounding areas to kind of capitalize on the NIL opportunity, or certainly being that I was an athlete from Charlotte, which is a few hours away from Chapel Hill. So maybe I could have tapped into my network here in Charlotte for businesses and just try to figure out a way to leverage um, their business capital, and try to promote things on campus in Chapel Hill and get that in front of students there, which of course that's a large institution, thousands and thousands of students. So, if you're crafty and you can and you are creative, you can figure out a way to, if you're a student athlete, make NIL work for you, I think.
That's good. And here's the thing, like every person has NIL, name, image, and likeness. We all have it. It's how we all decide to leverage it makes the difference, right? That is the deciding or the differing factor. But there's something that you said that really drives a point home for me is it's not where you start, but it's just starting, period. So you're a walk on. There's so many athletes that I've met who were walk-ons. They weren't recruited from the school, but they knew that they also wanted to have that community or they wanted to compete in this sport. It also builds or provides you with other type of resources that maybe you would not have had otherwise. I think that athletes typically embody this sense of pride and community and brotherhood, not to exclude women, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's also important in business. We cannot create a business alone. And so, even without the track and field or the athlete identity or flag being waved over your head, you still created a successful pathway for you. And part of that is 704 Shop. And it's also have led to you doing other philanthropy type work, which is so important, right? And we want to fulfill a purpose, we want to help other people, but we cannot help other people until we have the means and the mechanisms to do so. And so that brings me to my next question is the importance of team. You have built 704 Shop into a mega enterprise, I would say. And I say mega because some people, they have an idea or a dream to create something, but they don't, I can't say that they don't know how to create it. They just don't have the ability to dream big enough. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes dreaming big enough for some people may think, oh, well, I can create a six-figure business. That's not
Mm-hmm.
big until you get into a six-figure business and you're like, I need more than this to make the impact that I want to make. So, how important has team been for you to take your business into a successful enterprise that now helps you to theoretically feed other individuals so they can follow through with their gifts?
Man, that's such a great question. And I talk about this so much because I think of the three business owners, for 704 Shop, my two business partners. Um, I'm the most visible of the three of us in terms of out in the community and just, working with people and doing speeches and, speaking to students and so on and so forth. So, in many cases, when people think about the brand, in terms of putting a face to the brand, they think about me. And so I think, not to say that I'm not doing a lot of great work in the community, and I do show up and I am putting in the time to serve on these boards and make impact. Um, but I there's no way that we would have gotten collectively where we are as a brand without the three of us and our teammates really pushing everybody in the same direction. Um, I have a fantastic team. We have the benefit of knowing each other since really like our junior, sophomore and junior years in college. And so I think when you have that kind of friendship foundation that's really solid, to where you can challenge each other as brothers and it not interfere with the business. And everybody understands that we're pushing to make this business as successful as we possibly can, to either exit successfully at some point if that's what we choose to do down the road, or if not, build wealth, right, and build equity for ourselves and our families. And so when you understand what you're pressing for, it makes it so much easier to fight through those tough times, right? Fight through when you don't agree. Somebody's got to lay down, right? Sometimes, and just like roll with the team. And it's like, all right, I'm gonna be a team player and I'm gonna roll with it. There's so many times when we're not aligned, but you know what? We figure out a direction and we all push together. And we know that we're either gonna win together or we're gonna take an L together. But either way, we're gonna be together, and there'll be a lesson learned, and we'll be stronger for it. Um, and so I think because of that, and there's no egos involved, right? I think we do a good job with even beyond the three owners, and we're all homies, but we've done a great job with our hires as well, right? We hire people that really are invested in our brand. They believe in what we're trying to do. They know the story of the brand, so they can recite it. They really believe in it. It's very important that when people walk into our storefront, um, that and they interact with our associates, that they feel like that's an authentic experience, right? So even if I'm not there, if Chris is not there, if Scott's not there, if Jerry's not there, one of the owners is not there, it should not that should not circumvent you having a great experience in our storefront. And so that's something that we really pride ourselves on, is hiring the right way, making sure that we take care of our employees, and give them all the support and tools that they need to be successful. Because if they're not successful, we're not successful.
And that's real. That is 100% real. There's something you said about when people come to patronize your business, it doesn't change the impact that is being made technically, right? Or the
Yeah.
experience that someone enjoys when they come there. Imagine going to a restaurant and you're like, oh, I want this particular dish. And you get the dish, you're like, but it tastes different because it's a different chef in the kitchen, right?
Right.
Somebody's not following the same recipe. And it can be so aggravating. It's like, I got my mouth fixed for this thing, and I really want to have this satisfaction in, for from this particular meal right now. It's the same concept for any business.
Right.
Can people tell there's a different chef in the kitchen? Your
Right.
brand should be seamless across the board. It doesn't matter how many owners are a part of the brand or how many individuals are working in the brand. It should be seamless. But there's something I love that you said, which truly embodies this athletic mentality, is that mindset piece. You said that we push each other to be better. We're either going to win together or we're going to lose together. And I will also challenge you to say that I don't think you guys have it in you to lose because because with that mindset, you are riding so hard for one another that you are bound to learn something from what you would consider to be a loss, right?
Correct.
And so another thing that you brought out is, okay, how are we going to exit the business or whatever we're going to do? Most young individuals just know, or young athletes, oh, I want to do this thing, I have this talent, I exhibit this particular talent, and I want to do this. They can make a whole lot of money from it, but they have no idea what will be the end of that. They don't think further from tomorrow or maybe 2 or 3 years. They're not thinking long term. How
Mhm.
did you and your co-founders, if how did you get to the place of determining what that end goal would be for the business?
Well, I think it's still fluid, really. We're still very much in a maxim, like we have a growth mindset right now, right? We, by the grace of God, we've been in business. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year. We founded the company in 2013, and we started it with our own money. We've never been backed by investors. We've, we are, we run our business like it's a startup, even though it's 10 years old. Um, and what that means is, we're very cautious about, what we spend our money on, how we spend, what we invest um, in terms of like, just different ventures as it relates to the business. We're always prepared, as much as we can be for a rainy day, because, and that ended up, being a saving grace for us when COVID hit, right? And so many retail businesses did not make it through the pandemic, either A, because they didn't have a financially healthy balance sheet, or B, they could not pivot in a way that, to where they did not have a business model that could survive, them not having any revenue for, 2 months while their brick and mortar was closed, or maybe they couldn't get online quick enough to try to attract customers, and so on and so forth. So for us, at this point, we're still eagerly, reaching out and trying to do more, bigger projects, bigger collections, more storefronts. I think are on the horizon for us. Um, More major league sports collaborations that make sense, right? If you can structure the deals the right way, to where they're financially sound, for the business and not just for the sports entity, um, because that's a whole different issue as well. But we're very much, we're still in aggressive growth mode, to try to maximize the cap of the business. If and I do feel like there's probably going to be a scenario where we take on some investment capital in order to be able to grow quickly in the way and do the things that we want to do, just as a way to grow our balance sheet. But I think as you kind of go down that path, right? And the reality is that I think 5 years ago, we probably weren't thinking about the potential of someone buying our business, and then what does that look like, right? But I think the more you know you know experienced you get in your business, and the more opportunities you see, because the reality is that the more business partners you have, who's to say that we're all going to be in the same place at the same time, in terms of what we want from the business. So sometimes you might have a situation where one person's ready to get out and the other two are like, no, like, I want to keep this. And one person's like, well, I'd be willing to sell my share, but I want to stay involved in the business, in some way, shape, or form, even if it's from a consultancy standpoint. Then you might have another person who wants to hold on to all of his equity because he or she might want that equity to pass down, to as a wealth building opportunity for their family. And so, I think as you kind of get older, those things kind of come up. When you are just starting a business, 9 times out of 10, like, everybody's in the same spot. It's like you just want to get the thing going. You just want to put some wins on the board. But potentially, as you start to put a lot of wins on the board and things begin to change, from one owner to the other, you just never, you never know. So sometimes we joke around and we're like, well, what would we sell it for? Like, what's the number? And so I say we joke about it, but there's probably some level of seriousness there. Like, if somebody were to approach us with a high enough number, would we be willing to sell it? What is that number, right? So I think but I think we are still very much boots on the ground. Like, what do we need to be doing today? What do we need to be doing next week? What do we need to be doing next month to grow the business? Because ultimately, even if you do end up going down the path of exiting, it's not like you can take your foot off the gas, because you're still trying to get the best price on your investment, right? And so, and if there's one thing any investor can smell, is if you're just pretty much like asleep at the wheel and just kind of like you're comfortable at, with parity. Um, so, we still got so much more impact to make, in our region, in our community. So I would say that we're not seriously entertaining like exiting, but like it could happen, it could happen.
But PSA.
Yeah, it's like, look, if you're an investor out there and it's like you look up our business and you're like, hey man, that looks like a pretty exciting opportunity and you want to step to the table, we'll have the conversation. But it's not something that we're actively like, looking to do at this point in time.
So let me ask you this, and I know that you guys are still kind of figuring out what you might want the move to be. Do you think it's important for young entrepreneurs, especially those who are now in a position, have the ability, want to monetize their name, image, and likeness, and then have a peer who they're probably getting into business with, to start thinking about those serious conversations at the outset versus waiting?
Oh yeah. I think you should always, so I'm big into like the 7 habits of highly effective people. My favorite one is Stephen Covey, is begin with the end in mind, right? So that's like kind of like a life philosophy for me. I don't start anything until I've thought at least as much through what I want the end result to be, and then I reverse engineer it backwards, right? So if like how much it's so much more powerful if you know that you want to start a business that you want to sell, then there's so many things that you like. That's a huge advantage if you know that up front, because there's certain that even just with the formation of the business, there's a certain legal structures that you need to have. What state do I want to incorporate it in? All of these things become very important, and which is not to say that you can't change these things later, but they're going to cost you money and time to change later. And so if you do it at the outset because you've given it some thought, and it's like, hey, I know that I want to try to grow this and grow it as much as I can within 3 to 5 years and exit and see what I can get for it, then that's you're going to do everything that you need to do from the onset to meet that goal. Whereas if you know that that's not your goal and you want it to be a closely held business and so on and so forth, then that's a completely different path. And so I think it's really important to, think about those things, seek out an attorney, such as yourself, or, someone who has expertise in that space to have those conversations. Depending on your community, like in Charlotte, we have a new entity that just started. It's called Climb, CLIMB, and basically it's pro bono legal services for Black and Brown business owners. Um, and so, if you can find someone that you can have that conversation with to help you think through these things, I think it's definitely to your advantage.
That's good stuff. So I want to tell you guys, definitely seek out Climb, and this is located in the Charlotte area.
Yep.
Okay. So
Yep.
definitely student athletes, because a lot of people, I always say that not having legal advice is no excuse to me, because there's so many resources, and I literally dropped a whole bunch on a TikTok video and repurposed that on other social feeds. But this is also a very great resource for people to go and look at, especially if you're in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, so that you can get expert legal advice to help you understand your business model, how to legally set it up, how to protect your
Yep.
interests from the outset, things that you should be thinking about, even if you wanted to pull in a partner later down the line.
Yep. Yeah, they help you think through all of that kind of stuff. I think they do. So it's all pro bono legal services minus litigation, right? So, think any business question that you could have that has a legal component to it.
Mhm.
I think it started with two of the bigger law firms here, Moore and Van Allen and Parker Poe. But now they have like 10 law firms that are involved in this effort. I think they've basically over the last, I think, 12 to 18 months, the highlight is that they've given out about, $400,000 worth of pro bono legal services to Black and Brown diverse small business owners. So definitely, if for folks that are watching this, definitely look it up, see if you qualify, right, and then make the appropriate outreach. I think they recently hired um, an executive director, so they've got some leadership in place and stuff like that as well. So
Yeah, that's amazing. So I have a few more questions for you and we'll wrap up.
yeah.
But you talked about the story of 704, and everyone understanding that story, the people that you hire understand that story, because at the end of the day, people come, yeah, they might come to their jobs with their partnership with their own individualized missions and goals, but to create something effectively that is successful, we all have to be on the same page.
Mhm.
With that being said, how important is to have and know one's story when monetizing a brand or your brand?
Whew, man, that's probably the $1 million question right there. And when I say it's $1 million question, I am not exaggerating. Um, so when I'll give you guys like the story. So when we first started 704 Shop, it's 2013, 2014, we're this startup brand. You know, Largely we were marketing the business like like you model what you see, right? So we were trying to market our company like a Nike does, like a Reebok or an Adidas or Under Armour, like a sports brand where you can lead with your logo, right? This is our logo. It's a 704. And we thought it was the coolest thing since sliced bread. Like, yo, like this is going to be hot. People can, when they see the 704, it's like they're going to want to rep this. And nobody got it. Like, no, people didn't care. It was like, what is that? I don't know. You couldn't make sense of it. And what we didn't realize is that these bigger brands, they spend millions and billions of dollars to create a narrative to where people understand what their brand is, and through alignment with, that's why you see, Michael Jordan has, a Nike deal, or Jordan brand now, but Nike when it first started. They align themselves with people that you already have an affinity to and that you already follow. And so by context, you're creating a narrative around why I want to be associated with this brand. If you're a startup, without a budget, you don't have that, right? And so what we had to do is we had to figure out, okay, well, what is our story, and who really are our customers? Like, how do we want to craft the narrative of our business? And so one of the things that we figured out was, just through really, trial and error, and happenstance, was that we needed to not lead with, our logo and our mark, but who is 704 Shop, right? 704 Shop is Scott, Chris, and Jerry. They're local guys, right? They met at UNC Charlotte. So the Charlotte roots, we had to figure out that Charlotte tie in terms of like who's behind the brand. And then it was like, okay, what is it that we're trying to do, right? We have no background in apparel design or graphic design or apparel manufacturing or sourcing or any of that. I happen to have a business degree, but largely like we're self-taught on all of this. And we've been self-taught. And so it was kind of like we use the angle of not really knowing what we're doing, but we're trying this anyway. And we want to build a brand for the city that the city can be proud of. And so that was compelling to the community, right? In a community like this, where there's so many young professionals that are just getting started in their careers, or they just getting started in their own businesses, or they have an idea to start a business, but they haven't yet. So people would tune in to our content just to see like what we were doing, right? And we would give the wins and we would give the losses, right? Like, oh man, we spent $2,000 on a business permit that turns out we didn't even need, and like this and that. And so, but it was this full transparency model to give people a window into like what it's like to start a business. And a lot of these people have been on this journey with us since that time. They remember when we used to do pop-ups and like go all over the city and do all of this. And so over time, we figured out what our brand narrative was. Like, what is it that attracts people to our brand? Like, what is it that's sticky about our brand? Now, we figured it out over time. How powerful would it have been if we had sat down and maybe spent the first 6 months before we even launched, spent the first 6 months maybe coming up with that, so that we can, right, hit just have exponential growth a lot faster than we did. So I think that's like really, really important. And again, that's been the thing that's really attracted, we've I think the first big partnership beyond other small businesses, and we've had a number of great partnerships, nonprofit, um, government entities, for-profit entities, national chains. We've done stuff with Shake Shack. When Shake Shack first came to Charlotte, they linked up with us for a collaboration. We've done Southern Tier Brewing, which is a national brand in terms of breweries and beer. But I think the first big, opportunity that we had to kind of partner that was going to have some legs to it and be sustained was when the city of Charlotte allowed us to, we have the exclusive license to use the Charlotte crown, the official Charlotte crown, which is the logo of the city of Charlotte. We are the only company that has a license to be able to use that and make apparel with it, or apparel and soft goods and hard goods as well for retail. Typically, you only see city, if it's not a municipal entity, you can't use the Charlotte crown. And so for the city of Charlotte to trust us with their mark, because I think we demonstrated that we could make it cool, and like, it's in the city's best interest. They want people wearing the crown and showing that they're proud to be in Charlotte. And so we're like, let us take this and run with it. And we did a good job with it. And now that partnership has expanded. But I think without that relationship, we don't get, UNC Charlotte, right? The relationship that we have with our alma mater, which is so very important because we have a very engaged, I would say, alumni base. And so when we come out with UNC Charlotte products that are premium, like it's out of here. Like it's gone because they want UNC Charlotte stuff. Part of it is that UNC Charlotte is also an underserved university in the apparel space, because we have big programs in our market. When you think about North Carolina, you think about the Chapel Hills, the Dukes, the NC States, the Wake Forest. To the south of us, you've got University of South Carolina. You've got Clemson, of course. So there are some big athletic programs in our market, and UNC Charlotte's not necessarily there on the athletic side, but we're on our way. We didn't get football until like I think 10 or 12 years ago. So it's we got an uphill battle to kind of catch up. But in our minds, UNC Charlotte is the brand. So that's the lens that we take to our apparel. We're like, what would Nike make for Chapel Hill? That's what we're gonna make for UNC Charlotte, right? Like that's the lens, in terms of quality and just craftsmanship and how those pieces come together. So again, when we make that stuff, like it sells very well. Without UNC Charlotte, I don't think we get the PGA for President's Cup last year, right? Because in those applications, when you start getting to these big boy applications, they ask you, what licensing experience do you have, right? And so we're able to list that we partnered with Cheerwine, and which is like a regional soft drink here in the area. It's kind of like Coke and like cherry Coke and Dr. Pepper. Like if they had a baby, that's what Cheerwine is. But it has a very, very strong. It's founded in Salisbury, which is just north of Charlotte, in the 704 area code. So they trusted us to do a collection with their brand. They've never done anything really like that before, in terms of on the level that we delivered. And so we have all this. We've just been really blessed to build a strong resume, so that when President's Cup comes around last year, it's like, okay, and also I think it helps to serve on boards and have these connections in the community, because the powers that be, they will ask. They're going to ask somebody in the business community, hey, have you heard of this brand 704 shop, or Chris Moxley, or Scott Wooten or Jerry Shepard? And when people go, oh yeah, those are the guys. Like those are good guys. They show up. They're really good in the community. They're really professional. We've worked with them X, Y, and Z, and they advocate for you. And that's how we get President's Cup. That's how we ultimately get, this year, Charlotte FC, our Major League Soccer team here, or a soccer club in our market, and so on and so forth. So I'm excited about our prospects going forward because, we show up well, and we hit a home run every time. Even if we don't hit a home run, I'm going to get on third base, right? So it's just a matter of time. But yeah, I think these relationships matter. You know what I mean? And I'm excited about where our brand's going. So we're just gonna keep at it.
I'm excited for you too, and you've illustrated exactly why having a brand story and understanding it really is the crux of creating a successful enterprise. Not a little brand, but an enterprise,
Yeah,
right? Something that is on the shelf or hanging in the closet of everybody's house, primarily maybe people who are in North Carolina, or the alumni folks or former athletes that have moved around the country. Like your apparel could be in people's homes across this country.
yeah.
So that's why I know the title is befitting. You're going to be talking at the first day of NIL Combine about turning your story into a money making machine. And yes, we do know that there are expenses, costs to doing business, but you won't be able to pay the expense if you're actually not making money. So
Yeah.
I cannot wait for your session on the 27th of July. My last question for you, keeping what you've said in mind, what is the biggest transformation or the largest takeaway that you hope student athletes and maybe those who are supporting athletes that you want them to have by connecting with you at this event and hearing your story in your session?
Yeah, man. Great question. I think the biggest thing is stories, narrative, and context sell products. It's not the product itself. In in so many cases, shoppers have so many options today. With the power of the internet, and you're not just limited to goods and services that are in your market anymore. And so, because of the internet, you can find the best product in any space for anything, if you just have a little bit of time to research. Usually, what is going to drive a person to support us, especially in small business, is what does the brand or the product represent? And so, as a student athlete, you have an incredible opportunity to, partner with a brand that has an incredible story, right, already. Or as an athlete yourself, ask yourself, what is my personal story? How can I leverage that to create my own personal brand? And if you want to have your own, line of health, hair care products, or facial care products, or whatever it is, physical goods, if it's a service that you offer, what is it about you that's compelling, and how can you work on that and craft that narrative into, like, to be able to monetize it? So I think that's the thing is, are you thinking of yourself as a brand? Because you are, if you want to be. But then it's like, what is my brand story? What are my brand assets? What's my brand delivery? So all of those things, those are all different questions. But I think the key thing is, like, am I thinking about myself as a brand? And by extension, am I setting myself up to actually partner with brands, to accelerate their growth and make some money for myself in the process? So I think there's a lot of just kind of inward reflection that you have to do before you reach out to a brand, because we get so many outreaches from athletes here in our market that are like, oh, I want to partner with you, or I want to work with your brand, and it's like they haven't done the work. I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them haven't done the work to figure out what is their niche market, in terms of like why it would be compelling for me to partner with you as a student athlete. Like, how does it help? How is it going to help me? And I think when you've done that mental homework, and be able to articulate it either through visual assets, a presentation, or notes, or whatever the case, a video, like whatever works for you. But I think you have to have done that work. And so I think that's a lot of, hopefully, obviously, we'll expand upon that, as part of what we talked through at the NIL Combine.
Ooh, that's some good stuff. Ooh, that's so good. So I can't wait to hear it. I'm always, like you said, in that growth mindset. I never feel that I'm done learning. There's always something I can do to sharpen my skills or to gain new skills that can help push me forward to the success that I desire for myself. And of course, I want the same thing for others, especially student athletes. This is why NIL Combine was created, to create a platform that could help listen, like literally break down, tear down the walls, the barriers that have always existed, especially for Black and Brown people. Because I know that access to information and resources is a big part of that. It's a big part of being able to even know where to start. Like, I could want to do something, but if I don't even know how to start, most people just be like, well, I might
They'll
as well
never
just go
start.
somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, they'll never start. It's
They'll
information
never start.
overload. It can
Mm-hmm.
be information overload. And so I think the value proposition of the NIL Combine is that you get to come to one centralized location. You're going to hear
Mm-hmm.
from so many great speakers, and they're going to break it down, in a way that's accessible, that's not what's the word I'm looking for?
Overbearing, maybe.
Intimidating.
Yeah, intimidating.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's
Mm-hmm.
just like, you can just plug in where, get in where you fit in. We're going to speak your language. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
make it easy for you. And hopefully, you'll come away with some tangible next steps. Some people you can reach out to kind of get their ear and expertise and set up a consultation or whatever the case, for folks that are offering different resources. But you'll have a starting point. It will definitely be better than you not coming to the NFL,
That
to
is
the
true.
NIL combine. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is true. Well, I definitely want to remind you guys, go and get your ticket right now at bit.ly/NIL Combine 2023. That's bit.ly/NIL Combine 2023. And one last time, it's bit.ly/NIL Combine 2023. Christopher, I'm so excited that you came on to share a little bit of your story and your background and all of that with us, because it really does provide a backdrop to what we can expect during the event. And I hope people really take action and show up. So when you have the ability to learn from people who have garnered a level of success that some people can't even fathom to dream of, that's why you need to be in the room, because other people can show us that it's possible. If they could do it, we could also do it. There's nothing that makes one particular person more special than you. You could do it too, but having the right information and the right people along your journey is the difference. So come to NIL Combine 2023 live event here in Chicago. You can attend virtually or in person. All you have to do is go to bit.ly/NIL Combine 2023 and get your ticket. Get it today before the price increase. We will be letting you guys know when that price will go up, but listen, we want to make sure that you actually put some action behind your moves. So go ahead and get your ticket today. I am Sivonnia DeBarros, protector of athletes. And as always, it is my pleasure to educate, support, and guide you to your next level. Until next time, I will see you guys later.
Peace, guys.
Peace.